Okay, so our project for today is this super fun uh, three trees table runner. So I'm just going to show you this one. Um, this is so much fun. And our Stephanie here at the shop is the one that made this one. The thing that's fun about this is she has added some bling. Let me see if I can get that closer. Look at how that sparkles. So she's really made this into a beautiful and fun um, Christmas table runner, which, everybody needs a little sparkle in their lives, according to Stephanie. So let's take a look at what we need to make this project. Okay, for the table runner, you're going to need a half a yard of your background fabric. And for your trees, you need two eighth yard cuts of the same or different fabrics, or a 4.5 by 11 inch of 9 different fabrics. So the thing is, you can make each one of these be an individual fabric, or you can make them all the same, whatever you would like. I am going to point out that the top piece is a little bit chubbier than 4.5, so you can cut all of them off of your fabrics that are in your stash at 5 inches by the width of fabric. Then for our tree trunk, you need a brown square that is 3 by 3. For the backing, you need 2/3 of a yard. Whoops. For the binding, you need a 1/4 yard, and the batting needs to be 2/3 of a yard. And you will need some double-sided fusible web. I'm going to tell you, HeatnBond is my favorite. So let me show you what that looks like. This is the HeatnBond. Um, I normally use the light. They do have a couple of other ones where it's just kind of regular, and then they have a no-sew one. But we're going to be using HeatnBond Light. And the thing about this is that it's got paper on one side, and then on the other side, do you see? I don't know if I can make it be. Yeah, can you see the shine that's on there? On the other side, this is the glue side. And so we're going to need some of that. And then you need some threads to match your fabrics so we can get them sewn down. So those are the things that you need to make our Christmas tree table runner. Okay, so I wanted to show you in your pattern. Here is the bottom part of the tree and the trunk. And then in the other piece is the other two pieces and your star. So what we're going to do now is we're going to trace off our pieces onto our fusible web. Now, I have a large one because this is how I drew it up. So I'm just going to use the one that I have. But what we're going to do is this. We're going to take our HeatnBond, and when you are drawing off onto your HeatnBond light or whatever fusible web you're using, you want to make sure that you have plenty of room around each piece. Okay, so now the first thing that we need to do is we need to trace off our tree onto our fusible web. And I've got the paper side up, and then of course the glue side is down against my pattern, all right? So as you can see, I'm actually using a light box because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. If you have a light box, man, get it out because they are our friends. And if you don't have a light box, then it's real easy to go and you would tape your main pattern to the window, and then just take your fusible web and lay it on top and then trace it off. So what I want to do is I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to use a small ruler to make sure that I've got some straight lines on my star. So here we go. Oops, went past. That's okay. All right, so there's my star. Easy done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to trace off our three pieces and the trunk of our tree. So I have to say, I really do not like wasting my heat and bond because you can have little chunks and you may need it. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that when I move this around that I leave about a half an inch between pieces because you'll see why here in just a second. So I'm just going to run along here, and remember, this is not rocket science. So just trace off. Whoops, my light off. There we go. Okay, there's that piece. And I'm going to turn this way because my arm is going to continue to hit that. Then I'm going to slide this guy right in here. Whoops, see? Oh, I love my light box, but I don't like it when I'm constantly turning it off because I hit the power button. Okay, so here's this one. And last but not least, we have our big one here. And we cannot forget our little trunk. So let's get him traced off. Okay, so here are our pieces of our tree. All right, so now that we have all of our pieces traced off, we're just going to come along with our paper scissors and we're going to leave about a quarter of an inch on the outside of each one of our pieces. It's a little bit more, no worries. And there is a reason that we're going to do this. I'll tell you that in just a second. Let me get these trimmed off. Okay, those little bits. All right, that'll go back in my stash. All right, so here is the reason that you always want to leave an edge around your applique when you're using fusible web, because when we iron these pieces to the wrong side of our fabric, we want to make sure that we have this overage so that once this has been glued to the wrong side of our fabric and we let it cool, then we're able to cut right on our lines. And the reason we want to cut on our lines is because after we iron this to the back of our fabric is because we want to make sure that the glue is all the way out there to the edge and that it has glued our fabric all the way out to the edge. And if you cut this before you iron it to the wrong side of your fabric, it may not stick along the edges, and I don't want that to happen to you. So be sure and leave excess, okay? All right, so now you get to decide what fabrics are going to go where. And so remember, we have a star. So of course I know that the gold is going to be my star, which is great. So that'll fit nicely on there. So I can set that one aside. But now I need to decide what piece is going to go in what position. So he's the darkest one here. So I want him to be my base. So we're just set that there. And as you can tell, I had fat quarters and I just grabbed my fat quarters and picked them up and sliced a chunk off of each one. Now, if you remember, the measurement was 4.5 by 11 is all that you really need. But the thing is that, like I said, this is a great place to go in your stash, or maybe you have some scraps from another project that would be green and perfect for this, then get those out. But you want to make sure that you've got enough for your pieces to actually have their little hem around the outside. So I think this one's going here. I like this guy here on this one. And last but not least, here is the top of my tree. So let me show you what we're going to do with these. All right, so now all we need to do is we're just going to take the gluey side, that's the shiny side and it's really rough, and we're going to just put that on the wrong side of our fabric. And I am using a batik, so you know how that is. It's kind of hard to determine exactly which is which. So I'm just going to lay that on here. You do not want to use a really hot iron. HeatnBond likes to have the heat setting at about a number 4. And so be sure and turn your iron down. If you use the cotton setting, that is too hot. And a lot of times what happens is you melt the glue so much that your pieces will not have the glue to stick down. So turn your iron down if you're using HeatnBond. If you're using another product, you want to make sure that you read the instructions so that you have the correct setting on your iron. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to take our iron and we're going to count to 3. And we're going to set it aside and let it cool. And I can see right there that didn't hit that. So, all right, so that piece is going to be set aside. Then here is the bottom edge of my tree. Okay. And make sure he's stuck over there. Yep. All right. So we're going to do this to all 3 of our green trees. And last but not least, here is the top of our tree. Okay, yep, everybody's down. And last but not least, I already did him. So here's the trunk of our tree. So that's the first thing that we're going to be doing. Okay, so if you are making the table runner that has the 3 trees, then you would be repeating each one of these pieces 3 times, okay? And that goes for all of them. I'm only going to do one because I'm just going to show you how you're going to do it. But again, remember, if you're going to be making the 3 tree table runner, then you're going to need to make 3 of each of our pieces. Okay, so as I said, we always want to leave paper and the heat and bond outside the edge of our lines here. So now what we're going to do, because I am ready to start putting this together, we're going to just cut right on the line of each one of our pieces. Okay, so there's our trunk. And see, this is nice and glued down. Nothing is popping up. Okay, there's our beautiful star. All right, so now we're going to cut out all the rest of our pieces on the line, and then we'll be ready to put it to our background. All right, so here are all 5 of my pieces all cut out. As you can see, there's right on the line. And now it's time to put them onto my background. So let's do that next. All right, since I'm only doing one of these, I'm going to put it on a smaller background. And so this one I think was like 14 by 20 by 20 because it was a leftover. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my tree is in the center of my piece of fabric. So what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 short ends and I'm going to give it a nice finger crease. Okay. And as you can see, it creased really nicely. And then I'm going to take the long ends and I'm going to put them together and I'm going to make sure that my little fold, that little crease, are right on top of each other. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to do the same thing here. And this is just a real easy way to find the center of anything that you're working on. All right. So now there we have it. So I've got a really nice uh, visual of where the center of my fabric is. Now I want to remind you, this is what our tree looks like, okay? And if I wanted to, I could actually take this and crease this the same way, but I'm not going to worry too much about it because I know that this guy is my centerpiece, okay? So to get these guys lined up and to get them to be ironed to our background fabric, what you're going to do is, let me put it closer so you can see, you are going to pinch the edge so that the paper comes away from the glue that has now been adhered to the wrong side of your fabric. So as you can see, I mean, that just popped right up, and then that is going to peel away. Now the thing is, do you see, you can see the shiny on the wrong side of our fabric. So I'm going to just take this, and if I wanted to, I could put these two together and kind of see where the center is, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here. Okay, so there is my first piece. Right. So I don't want this to move around, so I'm happy with where this is, but if I want to test, I can do this. See, there's my little point. He's lined up pretty good there. And here's the bottom. But I'm going to iron that first piece down because I don't want him moving. I like him right where he is. So this time, remember we counted to 3, but this time we're going to count to 5. Yeah, it's nice and down there. Okay, very good. Now, I'm going to get my big piece here underneath. So again, I'm going to give it a nice pinch. Do you see how that paper just popped away from there? See, there it is. We're going to take that one and we're going to lay it right under here. And you can decide how close or how far apart you want this. Same thing. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Well, since we're down here at the bottom, we might as well put the tree trunk on. Those guys are on nice. Let's go ahead and do the top. Last but not least, our beautiful star. And now we have our tree is all put in place. Okay. Oops. Tip didn't get down there. Good. All right. Now you get to decide how you want to stitch the edges down. You can use a blanket stitch. You can use a straight stitch right along that edge. You can do a skinny little zigzag that's going to match your fabric. So you would have a thread that would match each one of these. It all is up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my one of my favorite ways to stitch this down. All right, I wanted to show you what Stephanie did on hers. She actually you can see the stitching. She just did a straight stitch right inside the edge of her pieces. And so as you use this and you wash it, what you're going to get is what's called a raw edge applique. So that means that as you can see, you've got some little threads coming up here. That is a great way to do applique. Again, it's called raw edge applique. And the more this is used, the fluffier those edges are going to get. It's not going to unravel all the way because when it hits the stitching, it's going to quit. But this is one of the options that you can do when you are doing applique, raw edge applique. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do the applique with a little tiny zigzag. So on my machine, my zigzag width, I've turned it to 1.8, and my stitch length, I have turned to 1.20. That's going to give me a really slim little zigzag. All right, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a skinny little zigzag. And as you can see, the thread matches like really well to my fabric. And you're going to, what we say, we're going to zig on. So we're going to be zigging onto the fabric and we're zagging right off the edge of our fabric. So let's watch how that goes. So we see how we're zigzag, on, off, on, off, on, off. When you come to a curve, you want to stop and you want to rotate your fabric a little. Now, the foot that I like to use for doing this little skinny zigzag is I like to use what's called an open toe embroidery foot. And the reason I like to use that over a standard foot is because it's open here and I can see exactly where my needle is landing, both on the fabric and off onto the background. If we were to use just a regular traditional foot like this one, what happens is it's closed up and you really can't see where you are stitching. And so this is probably my favorite foot, the open toe embroidery foot for doing applique. So you can see you're just on and off on the fabric and off the fabric. And the other reason I like to use this is because, as you can see, as I'm going around this curve, this line here is moving away from the inside right toe of my foot. So when it starts to get that far away, then I just stop and I rotate my fabric until I've got like a straight line here. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. So you see how it's getting farther away right here? You're going to stop, straighten it up, and that way it makes it real easy to make sure that you're staying on your fabric. Okay, we're going to get her all the way around. We're going to pull our fabric. Be sure and get our bobbin. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull on our last thread there and get a, here we're going to pull that loop up. There it is. There they are. And we're just going to tie this into a square knot. Remember, right over left, left over right. Up, that other thread, there it is. There we are. And there is our beautifully stitched first piece of our Christmas tree. And as you can see, you're just seeing the stitching, but the nice thing is it matches pretty well with your fabric. And so this is just a great way to do it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch the rest of these. And we'll come back and look at the whole thing when we're done. Okay, so I'm going to show you on the star how you're going to do the straight stitch. And the first thing that I would like to do is, like I said, I always try and use the toes of my feet. That sounds funny, as a guide, so that I'm straight or know exactly where I need to land. So the thing is that I want to be able to line up this toe of my foot with the edge of my star, but I don't want to stitch way over here. So if you have the opportunity to move your needle on your sewing machine, then this is always a good place to use that. So I'm going to go over pretty much as far as I can go and see, as you can see, I can just land right on top of I'm going to raise my foot so you can see up. I've gone too far, so let's go back a couple. Now, let me see if you can see. See, as you can see, I'm just going to be touching that, and I still think that's too close. So we're going to make one more adjustment and go over one more. So there we go. So now I'm real happy with where that is. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to use the inside toe to run it along the straight edge of my star. And don't ever start at the point when you are doing something like this, because invariably you can't, a lot of times you don't land back on that point when you are done. So we're just going to, do you see how I'm using the toe as my guide along the edge of that star? And you are able to use the straight stitch on all of your tree pieces if you would like. Oh, so I need one more stitch. Fold that top thread over. All right, flip our threads. See where that one popped up, so we'll pull him to the back. And there's that one. And we'll just tie those off as well. And there is our star stitched using the straight stitch. Okay, so here is our tree, one of our trees, and I hope that you enjoy this project. I think this turned out really cute, and this will make a great little small wall hanging just one tree by itself. But I do want to remind you of the large tree. And again, this is a table runner. And if you decide that you're going to do the table runner, you need to make 3 sets of each one of your pieces. And you might decide you want to get blingy like Stephanie did and get those little crystals put on your Christmas tree. This is a fun project, and I hope that you enjoyed seeing how to do applique, and happy holidays.